Hello, Culture Matters podcast. Boy, am I excited about today's episode. Before I introduce you to our guest, here's a quote just for this episode. If you are ever tempted to look for outside approval, realize that you have compromised your integrity. If you need a witness, be your own. Epictetus. Our guest today, you know him if you know us well, coach, mentor, advisor, friend of the Culture Matters podcast, friend and inspiration for your culture received.
I like it.
um, over decades in the media
Mhm.
industry, advertising space, and it's taken that knowledge and those relationships and that insight and built a coaching business. One of the best master of ceremonies. We've Thanks for coming back once again, my friend John Duffin.
Oh,
Excited for this episode.
Jay Doran, I'm thrilled to be back, man. That is incredibly kind and sweet. And as you say, friend of the Culture Matters podcast, I'll say dear friend of the Culture Matters podcast because it matters to me. I'm really grateful to get to continue our conversation. Beautiful.
Thank you. I'd like to know, well, I'd like to know first about urgency.
Hmm.
And because when we're recording this,
Hmm.
yeah, I think actually it's important to mention because we're recording this on December 30th
Hmm.
of 23.
Yep.
It's going to be some time before it comes out, I think, mathematically, because of the level of intensity both of us have put into curating content together this year. This is over 8 times. This might be the ninth or eighth.
I believe it's the eighth, Bub. And so you're right. You got it. It's 8 times. And that talk about being flattered. This is wonderful that we get to dive deeper and deeper. And that just makes me happy.
So I want to ask you about urgency, the
Right.
sense of urgency it takes because of when we're recording this.
Hmm.
People stopped working weeks ago, in my
Hmm.
observation.
Hmm.
So that's my first question. Why the urgency? Let's
Oh,
start with that.
I love it. So I'll give a couple of examples that from my experience, direct and corporate, that I still remember. Like as we come into first quarter, or when this is on the air, when we're in first quarter, there's this illusion of new year, new you, blank slate, everything, the world is your oyster, and every other cliche that you could put on the table, meaning code for I'll get around to it when I get around to it. Right. So I'm going to ease my way back. I've watched companies do this. I've been in companies that have done this. I'm going to ease my way back in, dust the pumpkin bread crumbs off of my sweater, put on real pants and go back to the office and then continue to I'll check my email and let's see where I am. And I had a very specific, I won't out the person, but I remember really clearly. I was national sales manager for a major television corporation. And so I remember, so I'm accountable for the revenue for the station, but I have to rely on my national sales teams to generate the revenue. I remember coming back, and it was like right after the first of the year, and we had on the books zero, which I had never encountered ever in 25 years of ad sales. The number on the books was zero. So I get back
Zero like sales,
$0 were on the books.
zero ink, zero money.
Correct. Correct. From sales, zero. So I get back to the office. You talk about urgency. My boss is out of her mind, and justifiably so. Uh, the only thing I was surprised by was that she actually waited until January the 2nd to start firing bombs at what's going on. I remember I'm then going to fire bombs at the national sales leaders around the company. And I still remember the quote was this from one of them. Well, hey, nobody really does business in January in our culture. In our culture, nobody does business, in January anyway. So I wouldn't worry about it. I'll never forget that because I couldn't stop worrying about it, right? That it's like it looks bad, it is bad. And so two things. The reliance on other people, and now I want to go back to your quote. The reliance on other people to tell you what's important is a compromise of your integrity. Because the only one that knows that is you, right? So I'll never forget. And second example of why this matters so much. So I launched Duffin Media. No, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. It was the last year I was with that corporation, but I knew something was brewing. So I'm with a bunch of friends, colleagues, and we're in Florida. And we're there for the first week of January because nobody does business the first week of January, which is categorically false. But the fact is, I bought in. So I'm doing my typical New Year, New Me video. I'll never, the was this. So I remember doing New Year, New Me. All of us are doing separate videos on our phones. What we're going to do and who we're going to impress and how far we're going to get. And I'll never forget, I do the video and my phone drops and breaks, which to me was really a great
Good foreshadow.
illustration of how nuts it is. So why is urgency so important? All of that is to say, I never stop thinking of that because you just don't know what the hell's in store for you. You don't. Or your company, if you're an entrepreneur, solopreneur, or part of a corporation, it's waiting for people to give you their stamp of approval is just bad business. Or thinking because you're not hustling, you've got time is just a mistake. I have lived that. The urgency in companies. It's my passion right now is to bring people into the immediacy of any given moment, to be fully present as to what's going on, because you just don't know when stuff's going to change. You don't know when your job might be at risk. You don't know when somebody may want to make a change in your corporation. You may not know. You may not know. You might be trying to salvage a career, whether it's real estate or whatever, and you don't know what's going to change. And so the urgency is to me, things do change. People get sick, people get hurt, families change, businesses change, corporations change. And my job, as I see it, is not to scare people, but it's just to awaken them to the fact that you can solve this. You can't solve the potholes on the road, but what you can solve is if you're in the immediacy of the situation and you're taking the steps and you don't back off and you keep yourself fully present, listen to people, speak to people when you are presenting, be fully engaged. All of these opportunities matter. And I'm not trying to lean steal culture matters. I think somebody already has that one, but
Yeah, quite a few, by the way. And I support that. There are quite a few podcasts
do
out
they
there.
really? I didn't
Quite
know
a few
that.
people pursue it. And I think it would be ironic in a
Of course.
negative way for me to sue people that use the culture matters when
Yeah.
just because I own the trademark, right? Think about that. Like, yeah. I'm not culture matters. That's so egotistical,
My
right?
culture matters more. That
And,
that could be your next
and then
company.
so anyway, I'm
But
proud of
that's all
that.
that I'm
People
right.
want to talk about culture
It's
matters.
not to alarm people. It's not to change, but I'm just seeing things. And it's like, and I really believe there are opportunities. I believe when you are in a business situation, if you are fully present and not letting yourself off the hook, don't intimidate yourself. You know what I mean? Because nobody wants to look or act scared, but simply just be fully present when you're communicating.
I wrote this down.
Hmm,
It's earlier something you had
right.
said. Q1 started in Q3.
hmm hmm
What are
Oh,
your thoughts?
I fully believe
Like
that.
July, August, September, Q3,
Absolutely.
Q1, January, February, March. What do you take from that?
Mhm.
What interpretation do you have of that?
So my interpretation can be literal. because it was true. So you alluded to, and it was great, and I'm grateful that you remember that I was in broadcast ad sales and sales management for over 25 years. So I'm coming at you with the experience, not to sound arrogant, but just situational, real things. We were placing first quarter buys in July and August. We were finalizing annual budgets right around Labor Day. Now, from a company level, I just was speaking with a former colleague and a current client, and we were remembering painfully that the actual number drop sometimes didn't happen until late December, early January. But all of the steps to get there did. To think you can now begin, I guess it's time to go and go get it. You know what I mean? It's like, no, it is third quarter. Really, when you think about multi-million dollar companies, do you really, with layers of personnel, do you really believe that they're going to start to address their 2024 issues with you in January? You know, we used to make
That's
company,
interesting because maybe the least ideal clients would.
of course,
The
because
least
they're telling you
ideal.
something about themselves. You
Yes.
know what I mean? And so it's like it's not like you don't take the business or work with them, but you come at least with the understanding that their mindset is probably not as progressive as leading companies, because that sense of time, see, they get the urgency. And one of, like I said, and one of the things that I coach is the sense that each communication is an opportunity if you are fully engaged, right? And if you're listening to them and you're understanding and you're coming buttoned up and you're just speaking, they let you in on things. And to me, it's like that's how you set the table, which is, I just had another thought, but I won't go in that direction yet. But it's be aware that you probably aren't at the same place as they are. And if you're coming at it now, there's some degree of catch up that you have to do. That's all.
For the listeners under stress
Right.
that are reacting
Yeah.
to the accountability of the market,
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
accountability of their
Hmm.
needs being met, what
Hmm.
advice do you have for them to slap themselves in the
Hmm.
face
Yeah.
and be present
Hmm.
with what's right in front of them?
Yep. Thank you. So, number one, literally, this is not a call to give up. This is not a call to say you're too late, but you could be. So, what this is that wake up call. You said that, the slap in the face, the kick in the pants, whatever. It's like it's the wake up call to understand you are playing catch up. So, the strategies that
Mm.
you, when we're coaching people, all come down to they, the client, your colleague, the team, your organization, they are probably a little further ahead than you. And how can you play catch up? Right? What are the strategies that you can utilize, that I can help, you can help? You know, if you're the person as the listener, how can you catch up? How can you move a little faster? Because they probably are further ahead right now. What can you do? And that's the thought. As I said, I'm not saying this to intimidate anybody, but it is a realization that time, experience, age, situations, they all are wild cards. So what do you do to make certain that you are as close in terms of your own timing with the client and company or the culture that you're speaking with?
I'd like your thoughts on this. I
Yeah.
observe people in business who they have $100 dreams and $10 work ethic.
Hmm. Hmm.
Whoever's listening to this, they may be working as if they had time.
Yes.
So, yeah, how are you grappling with the
Hmm.
hourglass of time,
Hmm.
looking forward, thinking potentially having less time than in the past where it
Mhm,
appeared, oh, I have so much time.
mhm, mhm.
What and yes, and what would you say to the audience that
Yeah.
may have $100
Mhm,
dream and a
mhm.
$10 work ethic?
So you embody some of this, and I'm gonna say not only like the cliche is work smarter, right? But what exactly is work smarter? Learn things faster,
Mm,
work a few more hours, get yourself physically and emotionally caught up. Meaning, it's like if you're going in thinking, I don't have to get at it this first week, because nobody really wants to hear from me anyway. Well, that's wrong. So, how do you fix it? You are the leader in the communications. Give someone a reason to want to speak with you because they do. Here's the good news: you're not alone. If you're the listener, you're not alone. You're not the only one that might be a little bit behind, right? So you're not alone. There's companies and cultures and there's individuals and team members that are right there with you. This is your opportunity to get ahead if you have the realization that
mm,
you need to get ahead as opposed to I got more time. So learn a little bit more, put in more effort, metrics effort. How many people are you speaking with? How do you know? What is the depth and breadth of the communication? Like what have you learned? Meaning, rather than I made 900 phone calls, okay, and left 900 messages. Great. Um, Nothing changed. Terrible choice of grammar there, but a little bit of my Philadelphia coming out. But as I said, but really nothing has changed when you're learning a little bit faster, when you're embracing technology a little bit more, when you're appreciating the techniques that are around you. You speak more confidently, and people can feel the urgency that doesn't sound like panic, right? There's a big difference when you're communicating with we're going to
mm,
talk now because it matters, as opposed to God, I need to get this closed. And if you don't pick up the phone, so well,
mm.
folks, what can you do? Find latch on to something that really matters to you, the subject matter, or knowing the client well enough that you can speak in and I always say this wrong, in an impassioned way,
Mm.
right?
The
That as I
distinction
said,
between panic and urgency is
confidence. I'm trying to help. I'm trying to help you as opposed to I need your help. And if you take it that way, it's like, oh, I need to get this closed. So please take the call. It's I need you, Jay, to help me. As opposed to I'm here to help you, and here's why we should do this right now. And then someone is literally thinking, oh, they want to help me. Okay, great. I'll take the call. Why not?
how often am I following up right now?
I this is like I said, great question, and my answer floats and changes. Here's what I am personally currently doing, and I'm not telling you it's an absolute metric system. I follow up aggressively now. And the reason why is if I am coming from a place of service or contribution, wouldn't you want someone to follow up aggressively? So do your homework if you're just calling because you're just trying to get a sale, whatever that means, right? As I said, is the listing. I need a listing. So I'm if you're in real estate, if you're in communications, I need the sale. I need the appointment. Do your homework. The urgency comes into how buttoned up you are. So before you're going into that call the night before,
There's
what are you
life.
doing? What are you doing the night before other than worrying? you know, this is what I'm realizing. Like I said, when I get the opportunity to speak for myself personally, when I'm helping other people, is simply it empowers you. It doesn't scare you, but you have to have the realization that it matters. What you're doing matters. Waiting till March to get your first quarter stuff in is insane. Because if, as you said, and I believe your first quarter business is being concluded in July, well, then figure by
Yeah.
March They're in September.
Next week,
Mhm.
I'm
Right.
going to record more podcasts than I did at one time in an entire year.
Which is unbelievable. May I ask why?
What the hell was I doing?
Why?
It can be done.
Mhm.
It must be done.
Why must it be done?
It's fun.
Mhm.
The people are asking.
Mhm.
I mean, the guests,
Mhm.
the listeners.
Mhm.
There's the relationships that
Mhm.
blossom to the
Mhm.
degree. It's like yesterday, I texted someone, "Hey, I'm doing a New Year's marathon,"
Ah.
and someone, or no, we were just texting a
Mhm.
friend, a friend, and in the conversation was like, "Yeah, someone backed out for 1 o'clock. How about you come on?
Mhm.
I'll be there." So all that work over all
Mhm.
those years has
Mhm.
led to, it happens all the time. Like
Mhm.
24 hours before, someone just makes it happen. All right, let's do a podcast on New
Yeah,
Year's
let's
Eve.
do it.
And now I'm able to bring their value to the audience. But when you said what you just said, and I thought next week, because I was tallying it up when I was waiting at the post office, going through Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'm like, Tuesdays 3,
Mhm.
Wednesdays 6, Thursdays 4, and
Mhm.
then all the way to Sunday. And nothing, it's like you'd be surprised what you accomplish with 3 quality conversations
Mhm.
in a day,
Mhm.
in
Mhm.
7 days. Do the math.
Mhm.
21. If you were to, if anyone listening to this were to do that for a month,
Just a month.
it's 84.
Mhm.
The average podcast in America, or it may be the world on Buzzsprout. Yeah, America's just 46% of the whole thing
Right.
on Buzzsprout. Is 84 in a year would put
Mhm.
one in the top 10%
Mhm.
of volume for a year.
90% of the people would be behind you if you just did that.
Yeah, it's to be in the top 5%. It's like 150 in a year or something like that.
And you crushed that this year.
But so to
Personally,
answer
you
your
crushed
question
that.
of why it was done, I think it's a bunch of factors.
Yeah.
There's so much time in the day. There's plenty of other things, and that's what people interacting with me aren't
Mhm.
even comprehending, is that
Mhm.
there's all these other things that I'm responsible for doing for our organization, Culture Matters. That the show is a percentage of the day
Mhm.
or the week.
Mhm.
There's a lot of hours in a week, 168. If unless that changed. What comes to my,
Yeah, I haven't seen a
yeah.
calendar
Is that a
yet
sufficient
that has
answer of why?
changed for us.
I'm curious, is that a sufficient answer of why?
Let me tell you something, which is first off, point blank, yes. But here's the part, folks, if you're just listening, I hope you heard what I actually saw, which was when you started the answer with, it can be done, it must be done, and people want it. You lit up. You could
Did I?
see the smile on your face
No.
and you lit up. So folks, if you were listening, if you could feel the sense of pride, confidence, purpose, right? So that really was why I was asking the question more than, you know, next step, next step, next step. This is the thing. So everyone, by the way, you can't get out of the way of people wanting to send you their 2024 planner. So it's like, how many have you gotten today? You know what I mean? So, but as you said with the calendar, you've got the same number of hours in a day. So they haven't reinvented time. They haven't reinvented blocks. They haven't reinvented bullet points, but you lit up. So here's why this matters so much to me. The immediacy, that sense of urgency. You put confidence in yourself. Clarity, confidence, purpose. People hear that and feel that. So when they realize, hey, I got to move too, whether you're part of a team, part of an organization, if you're a subordinate, a boss, whether it's the client, colleagues, whatever, they got to move too.
I
They're
got
not
something
all
for you.
done.
I want your thoughts on. Our
Say that
team's
again. Yeah.
amazing. Our team's amazing.
Mhm.
They support the mission.
Yep.
And I believe that because of the results of their labor, meaning I
Mhm.
see amazing results. Um, I've been wanting to have more episodes be released to the podcast for some time, faster.
Mhm.
I thought, as opposed to me saying that to the team,
Right.
re-saying that and re-saying that, let me just do more episodes.
Okay.
And I think that as opposed to speaking what I
Mhm.
wanted or thought was right, we're allocating the time. So I had to give up other things,
Mhm.
make sacrifices with time,
Yep.
right? Maybe less TV,
Mhm.
more shows.
Mhm.
Example.
Right.
Putting more work into that and curating
Mhm.
more. I think the team has seen that and said, he's serious about this.
Mhm.
How can we help? And I think that's gotten us from 3 a week to 4 a week, or 2 a week to 3 a week to 4 a week, on our way up beyond that, 5, 6, with the vision of one a day being released for our listeners. So where I'm saying is, I was like, let me just record more,
Mhm.
do the work. I'm curious what you think
Nope.
about that,
Mhm.
culture wise.
Mhm. Sure.
Are there lessons in that
I
as a
think so.
coach of leadership
Yep.
that you can, or do you have any other critiques?
No critiques. I interpret it as literally it's like lead by example and creating new senses of normal, right? So there is no, hey, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this for this reason and this is how it'll impact and blah blah. It's just going on. So my only question would be in terms of, I hate the word compliance, so I don't want to go with that. I'll come up with it. That just sounds harsh.
Compliance? No,
It just does. It sounds legal and harsh. But
yeah,
what
it's
I mean is
horrifying.
getting people to buy. There you go, to buy in. That's what I want. Compliance. It sounds so
Yeah.
severe, but what I mean is to get people to buy in. So the only question I had with that would be, in terms of the observation, would be, well, literally, what's in it for them?
Here's here's where we are.
Hmm.
Here's why I think we are where we are.
Hmm.
Here's where I think things could go.
Hmm.
This is how it impacts you,
Hmm.
me, and everyone we touch.
Hmm.
That's where, in my mind,
Right.
I just
Mhm.
imagine the meme is like, that's what I think the conversation was.
Yes.
And the conversation that actually happened between me and, let's say in this case, my life partner.
I'm
And
laughing. You, the team, the
but
team
I think,
is at the factory now working 17 hours a day because
there's the speech, and that's
because
it.
of
And then
your
there's what
vision that's in a
actually,
bubble off the top of your head.
yes,
So
and then
the
there's what actually
only
happened.
thought would be, because I'm imagining playing devil's advocate, and I think it's great, by the way, because they're doing it right, because they see you, they know you, and they know that it matters, and they see that look on your face that it's a great look that you want to help somebody. So that's all terrific, right? The only questions in that regard are, how long do they keep rolling before either they tap out, and you, before you tap out, you're like the, okay, I'm bored, or I don't get it, or I'm not getting anything from this. He's saying he's going to watch less TV, but I love Real Housewives, so why am I going to stop watching that? Because this one wants to do 17 podcasts a day now, and so I'm going to work 9 to 100 hours, and I'm exaggerating with all of it.
This
But
is
my
great.
thought
No,
is,
that's
but
fair.
my just thought is, ultimately, they should at least be aware of what a payoff could be. It doesn't mean it's a guarantee. It doesn't mean,
I
but
agree.
that's
Great
all.
advice.
Just an ultimate, you get a chance. And if you didn't take, you, anyone, business leader, folks, listeners, you always get a chance to do this. There are optimum times to have these conversations, but optimum is so subjective. We'll go back to the immediacy. Well, it hasn't been done yet. Okay, great. How about now? How about Monday? How about Tuesday or whatever the first day? Got an idea, folks? I just want you to be clear.
John, I'd like to articulate for you as well as our audience.
Hmm,
I'm a nag by nature.
that's okay. Nags get stuff done.
And so that is not a quality culture
Hmm.
absent of
Hmm.
show leading by example,
Yep.
tact,
Hmm.
inquiry.
Hmm.
I've been doing these read to think, right to all of this, these
Absolutely.
podcasts, so that I could evolve
Hmm.
and be who I want to be.
Hmm.
Be a leader,
Hmm.
not be solely perceived as one because I have some media network channel.
Right.
So I've failed forward,
Hmm.
and I found that that's why I joked about the meme of here's what I think,
Yep.
they said, and then what actually goes
And
on.
I'm
A
picturing the
lot
meme
of
of all the factory
conversation,
people, all like I
conflict,
said, with sweat coming off their heads, making their
conflict,
next widget.
conversation that
Yeah.
go well, that go well,
Hmm.
and how that trickles
Hmm.
to the team. And then we're at the point where we are gathering more, like that's physically, like
Right.
because culture matters. The internal team that works
Hmm.
behind the scenes with all these different businesses is growing and has been growing. So it's like, hey, we got to all get together. Because just because, right, we're not absent of the same types of contradictions that
Hmm.
build up the businesses because our work is culture. We have to face the exact same gravity as everybody else.
1000%.
That's my answer.
I love the answer. You and I have a mutual friend, and I just interviewed her on my own podcast, Maria Quattrone, where she literally talks about work works. Work works, work works. So she's been in the business and my former field. She's been in my former field and also in a real estate, guru, business leader for a lot of years. I find it really impressive when someone who has done a lot continues to say things like work works and walks the walk of doing the effort. So when you said, hey, I'm a nag, good, things get done. It literally, you're allowed to hold people accountable. I
Well,
was,
my temperament is that personality. Wait, no, my temperament
uh-huh.
is neuro. Let's say uh, presupposes the necessity to do all the self work. And
Mm,
my
mm.
what's key that how I'm asking and communicating keeps other people in mind, so I'm
I've
not
never heard
alienating
you
them.
deviate from that. I was just thinking, we've known each other now, what, 5 years, 6 years, something like, no, 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 no. I had just launched, I was getting ready to launch in real
It's
estate.
a
So
long
we're
time.
in 5 years, when I first met you in Philadelphia. And so what I was going to say is, I've only got 5 years of experience in this regard. I've never once heard you ask for something that didn't sound compassionate. Never once. And that's 5 years,
Thanks.
folks. So it's like, in 5 years, I've never heard anything that went away from a compassionate ask. I think as business leaders, you have every right to keep asking. And just like I had given that example of, okay, John, my immediate boss, you have $0 on the books in January. I can't even say it without laughing. I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. But it was like, I'm an indirect manager of the people that are bringing the revenue in, and they're all like, we're cool. Nobody does business in
I
January
think it'd
anyway.
be fair to, I would like to say Maria
Right.
Quattro of the real estate uh, successes in the
Oh,
tri-state,
spectacular.
the of all the I would say that one of the most hard working,
Hmm.
focused, clear people, and I say because many of those of her contemporary ha, have been influenced almost away from doing the work that works,
Hmm.
like away from sales, more into into recruiting,
Happens all the time.
and I've seen it undermine their businesses. And
Hmm.
but in her steadfastness with her work she's one of the, I just want to affirm, she's one of the top actual realtors, not
Mhm.
just uh, avatars of real estate.
I
Right.
love that.
So that's
And
something
I
that
think
I would
really
say.
well put, by the way. And in terms of a business leader who works, who literally works is literal. I'll give a literal example of what impressed me. It just happened like a month ago. And I went to her office and I'm hanging out and we were talking about like marketing stuff. And meanwhile, Jay is there in the building. There's another business colleague that happens to be there. Maria is there, and there are a couple of teammates that are there. So you're doing Jay Doran's famous for his hot calls training. Well, Jay's famous for a lot of things, but one of them happens to be that specific technique. It's fun, it's productive. Here's what happened, and I love this. So, my observation, I was there and I wasn't there for that, and I didn't know. The surprise was Jay is there. Great. And it was a great surprise. And everyone's on the phone. So, Maria is a couple people down. And it's wide open space, so nobody's got any offices or doors or whatever. Wide open space, and Maria is probably the furthest to the left. And there's all kinds of loud voices, and I'm there, and I literally can out scream anybody. So it's like my voice is bouncing off of walls, and Maria's in it. Maria's in it. And so many leaders now
Hmm.
would do this where they'd set it up and they'd introduce Jay and the technique, and we're all going to do this. And then they would head down the basement or
You're
wherever
right.
the office happens to be, and then come up afterwards and ask, how did it go? So Maria embodied the
Yeah, that's
sense
not
of
leadership.
real leadership is showing up and doing the work.
I
And
agree.
there's a sense of urgency that goes with that, because that sense of walking away from situations. This is why when I'm coaching or speaking with anyone, it's really get right with the immediacy of the situation, because you never know what unfolds. So my observation, oh, by the way, and I'm laughing because I literally hopped on the phone. Uh, I have a
It was
license
awesome.
with another place, and I'm like, okay, I don't even legally know if I'm allowed to do this, but it was so engaging and fun that I jump in. And I'm not trying to do that. I'm literally saying, but that's lead by example. You know what I mean? If you're doing it and you're doing it and she's doing it, you know what I mean? Well, hell,
Yeah, and
but
I should shout out Maria's been on the podcast. For those listening, look out for her episode. Been
Mhm.
on season uh, 1, 2, 3, around that area, and
Yep. One of the
uh,
cooler people that you're ever going to encounter.
another gentleman was there. Bill Mervin's been on the
Yep.
show a bajillion times. So
Mhm.
listen to those episodes if you're
Mhm.
not connected. There you go. But yeah, we were all physically there and others and doing this actual exercise
Absolutely.
as opposed to just talking about it.
Exactly. And coaching others. So folks, one of the things that I come to realize, and what keeps evolving, Jay, you said earlier, the way that you keep learning and evolving, which is so damn critical. One of my own missions, and I love when I hear it from other people, which is I don't want to be the person telling you old war stories from when I used to do this back then. My mission is to be a 2024 leader, to be a leader beyond 2024, and to come at a place of contribution and relevance and timing. If I'm telling you examples of what I used to do, well, then you can Google what people used to do. And so that sense of confidence and urgency, and I say that because when you watch leaders really lead by being in the immediacy of a situation, and Maria's like, hell, easy. I'm just going to make phone calls. She wasn't looking for an award or you know what I mean, or an attaboy. She wasn't, or attagirl, or attaperson. I got to work on
Uh,
that terminology.
yeah.
But it's like she wasn't looking for that. She's just doing it. And so people feel that sense of connection, that purpose. And so it's not just how you sound, although that is really important when you're trying to break through layers and inertia of others just getting back from their holiday break, or I'll get right back to you in February when I fully recover from my, trip to Vegas, or whatever it is that you're doing. Do the work. Understand you don't have as much time as you think, but don't let it mess up your head. Don't. You can catch up. Jay, you gave that perfect example of 90% of the people recording podcasts are nowhere close to where, so you can catch up. You can sound,
Not and to add to that,
yeah,
or how about another thing? I want your thoughts on this.
sure.
There's volume of out, so there's
Mhm.
numbers of shows recorded.
Right,
There's tenure of how long the show's been in existence.
right.
There's listening time, so how
Mhm.
long the average show is listened to.
Absolutely.
There's listenership,
Mhm.
how many people are listening.
Yep.
General, like how many subscribers, how many
Mhm.
downloads per episode, how many
Mhm.
downloads,
Right.
how many people are listening, I believe can, well, in theory, could never happen. It could be just you and me
Mhm.
talking to one another
Mhm.
with the listeners of none.
None.
And the question is,
Mhm.
how long are we willing to do this
Mhm.
until it's our time
Mm.
to be heard?
Oh, God.
Like, because there's,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
okay, well, could ask who's listening, or is
Mhm.
anyone? Because okay, you're putting out, you're distributing, you have a distribution channel,
Right.
the effort's there, the it's there, and
Mhm.
but who's listening and for how
Mhm.
long,
Mhm.
and is it ever going to be one's time? I
God.
because I asked that,
Yeah.
is it, I'll speak for myself, is it ever going to be my time?
Right.
And
Beautifully said.
because I want to own that, because
Mhm.
many of these people that are living, that I watch their interviews,
Yeah.
read their books, they talk
Mhm.
about talent, work ethic, all this,
Mhm.
and they mention luck.
Mhm.
It's an interesting phenomenon.
Right.
The ones that are not theologically inclined, they always talk about luck. And
Sure.
those that are theologically, they
Mhm.
share their gospel, is how what I've observed. But that's what I want your thoughts on.
Okay.
It may, I'm going to say it this way:
Mhm.
it may all be in vain.
Mhm. Mhm.
Is it going to be 10 years? Is it going to be 7 years? Is it going to be 3 years?
Is it gonna be ever
27, or never?
or never? Or never?
What are your
And
thoughts?
are you gonna watch all your colleagues have big explosive podcasts and not you? And all of these are on the table, all of them. So, one of the reasons that I feel really good about a couple of things. Number one, is it ever gonna be your time? I'll go back to that moment. Well, I don't know, but here's what you can do. If you, number one, believe in the purpose. Now, rather than asking futuristic questions like, "Will it ever be my time?" They're hard questions to answer, so my suggestion is don't. Because how do you know when you get lucky? Things just happen. What can you do? If you keep assessing, keep going back to, is this the message that you're trying to convey in the way that you want to convey it? Because there's always a purpose to a podcast. I'm messing around with a couple of different platforms right now, and I'm not committed to anything for the rest of my life with where they are placed. I'm committed to one thing with my own show, which is this. I believe in my heart that there are people other than me that took a long time to become confident, or maybe
Hmm.
never have,
Yeah,
right?
you're far
Or
more
have
confident
always.
than you were when I met you.
Oh my God, that keeps evolving,
Yeah,
and
it's
I don't
awesome.
say that to impress anybody. It impresses me because I didn't know that that was possible. I'm not trying to dump that on anyone
It's
else,
cool.
but absolutely. And one of the things that there's a lot of reasons why that is, but my number one suggestion for people is, do you believe in the message? So my message in my own podcast is simply this: I'm bringing people, or when I'm doing it solo, the communications tips are to bring a sense of motivation with substance. That I don't just do rah rah. I sound like I do sometimes, but I don't. It doesn't help people. The substance comes from you really can put yourself in a more confident place, which puts you in a chance to live a better quality of life. And that's before the financial stuff. It's just being able to walk around happy.
Why haven't you given up yet?
Oh, great. Really, listen, it's not like I don't think about it. Because as I said, you know what I mean? I've thought about it. Maybe I use my time somewhere else. Because the purpose is this. I believe I can help people become more true to who they are. That's simply it. And I'll bring on people that have walked the walk. I will bring on you, for gosh sake. It's like I said, you're a friend of my podcast, and it's because you walk the walk. You're willing to keep learning, which means, oh, and even more importantly, you're willing to keep sharing the knowledge. And so that helps somebody. If I can help somebody get out of their shell, if I can help somebody literally break through, um, and just be who the hell they are, I get great joy and satisfaction of watching people, better business people, better leaders, because ultimately that message gets shared. And to me, that's the exponential reason that the podcast keeps going, which is why I'm going to keep doing it.
I think if I were to die a failure of
Mhm.
this being success, I would
Mhm.
be proud of that I died doing it.
Mhm.
If I died having stopped and
Mhm.
then died,
Mhm.
and like, I know I'm dying in that moment. I'm thinking, this sucks.
Well, yeah.
But it, but but if
I'm with
I'm
you so far.
pursuing it,
Yeah.
I'm pursuing it, and
Mhm.
I'm dying, and I
Yeah.
know I've been pursuing it.
Mhm.
I This is a good way to go.
It's a great way to go, for God's sake, because you're helping people,
That's
and
the
you're not
binary. It's like if a listener maybe isn't, if I don't really feel that in my bones, then
right.
maybe I shouldn't do what I'm doing.
Then maybe you don't do it because that's the whole deal. The
Because maybe, oh, what
authenticity.
if I regretted it, right? I'm dying. I'm aware
Mhm.
of it,
Mhm.
and I have been still doing the culture matters.
Mhm.
And my thought is, oh, I wish I should have done this.
Mhm.
Then I should probably not even pursue my business. That could be a
Unlo
thought experiment for someone.
I think it's a great one, and then I'll add this, which is, are you doubting yourself or have you come to that conclusion? Because doubt is different than regret, but they can feel similar, right? So if you doubt or you're getting nervous or you're questioning things, that doesn't mean you made the wrong decision. It simply means answer the questions. Answer the questions. When you just asked me, so why do you keep going? It's like, it's like, I, oh, um, but answer
Good.
the question because you might surprise yourself. You probably will with even more confidence and clarity. Rarely is it, oh my God, I've let my whole life go. Oh my God, I've wrecked everything. That's doubt. That's not regret. Regret, you know it in your
Wow.
bones. Doubt is all the outside voices. So the easiest way to is answer the questions. Keep asking the questions. Don't you said, and I'm always grateful to hear, I'm more confident now. I'm less afraid of questions. I ask better questions, mostly because people ask me better questions. And I didn't die from a hard question. And you won't. And so if you're willing to stand in the box, so to speak,
Mm.
and answer a hard question or have the guts to ask someone a tough question, you'd be amazed. And that includes asking yourself, you'd be amazed at the confidence that you can draw. How you sound true and right. And people tend to believe and follow those that are, speaking true and right because they feel their best interests are going to be served.